Hi, I'm Elin Bhaird. I'm 60 years old, and I am an actor, director, costumer, and pretend to be an arts administrator, and I am an artist.
I am so grateful that I was able to arrange for you and I to sit down and talk today because I've always been such a huge fan of yours. For one, I came to work at the Pollard in the early days when you were there,
Yep.
and and I learned right off the bat two things. One was I was immediately afraid of you. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to ever get into a confrontation. I think I will lose my lunch. Because you were serious about the work and you weren't messing around. And
Yep.
two, as I've worked with you over the course of a few years, I've learned that you strike me as one of the most honest actresses that I've ever worked with. It just seems to, there's never a false moment. It always feels like
That's
I'm
sweet.
watching you when I'm on stage with you, and I'm so grateful.
You're so sweet.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank
I've never understood why people are afraid of me, but
you.
you're so blunt. You're so straightforward. It's like, honey, if I'd said that the way I actually thought it, you'd have ripped your pants. So it was like that's gone through three translations before it came out
Before
of my mouth.
three, their filters, the filters are fully engaged, and still people are like, "Oh, I'm
Right,
shaking."
yeah. Sometimes they're not at all. Sometimes it just comes flying out. But hey,
I feel that too.
I'm my father's child.
I know.
So
I know that process. You're your dad's child, huh?
oh yeah, I was a daddy's
Well,
girl.
that's a good place to start because I want to talk a little bit about the origin. I'm always fascinated when I talk to young performers. Each one of them has a different story, and some have grown up in environments where their pursuit of the arts weren't supported. Some grew up where they were, and so I like to ask all our artists, what was your origin story? What is that environment that built and created what would become Elin Baird?
Well, when I was 16 months old, we moved to way south Oklahoma City in the Moore School District, and um, I grew up on for a long time 5 acres on a dirt road.
Hmm. Okay.
And I climbed trees and I played in the pond and climbed on the roof. And mom and dad were good people. I don't know how crazy they were about each other, but they made it work. And
Were they were you did your parents introduce you to the arts? How were you introduced
no,
to?
no, I think it all came from my mom saying, "You're so dramatic. You should just take a drama class." I was like, "Well, okay, I will." So, there weren't any kids around, and we were on a four-way intersection, and every corner of that intersection, the kids went to a different elementary school.
Hmm.
And so I really wasn't around a lot of other kids. So there's a lot of imagination and stuff that comes into play there.
Sure.
I mean, I can remember of all things, I guess, how much stuff was on television, taking a beauty pageant and recreating it on our driveway.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty silly. So yeah.
No, it's exactly. I mean, it's just interesting the choice. Like you get kids who do the soap
I know
operas.
beauty pageants. You can figure out something else, but
That's
not the kind of stuff I watched. But hey,
right, right. And so you
yeah,
kind of got introduced through theater classes or through drama classes.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, and I was in high school. Yeah,
Oh wow.
actually, that's not true. I was in a play when I was 4 years old at preschool,
Okay.
but I don't remember it.
Right.
But I've been told that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. No, the first show I did, I was in might have been my freshman year of high school. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what it was?
Mhm. It was a shortened version of Godspell.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that show. I've been a fan of that
Yep.
show for a million years. Um,
Yep.
so you're doing that in high school, and
Hmm.
and I always ask, I think most artists hit a place where what I call it the point of no return. You discover this is the thing.
Right.
This is the
Right.
thing I want to do. What was that for you? How did you come to that moment?
I don't know. It was never like there was. it was almost like there was nothing else to do. I was like, well, I'm bad at math, bad at science, you know. My parents never, my sister and I've talked about this a lot. They were great, but they never really pushed us to be successful
Okay.
or have careers. I guess because my dad was older. He was 50 when I was born, and mom was 33.
Okay.
So it's kind of more an attitude where you probably should find a good man to get married, you know.
Right.
That's what you did. You got married and you had babies, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think I always knew from the time I was in high school that that's what I would major in when I went to college, if I went to college, or if I got married and had babies.
Right.
You know?
Right.
As time went on, it became really apparent because I'd have like a real job and I would hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. Couldn't stand it. You know?
Right.
I mean, really. And I go back to finding a theater job.
Mm-hmm.
I get, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go get a real job. You know the story, back and forth, back and forth. And finally, it was just like, okay, no, this is done. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's like a calling, I think.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, you compare it to someone being a preacher or something, and people are like, that's weird. But it is. It's, you have either a gift or whatever, and it's there to share with people.
Right. Right.
And, you know, I get really irritated at young actors, especially when they'll come backstage and bitch about the audience.
Mm-hmm.
This is a dead audience, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know, it's really not their job to provide you with energy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually your job.
Yeah.
Giving to them. It's beautiful when that channel is wide open and it goes back and forth and back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always happen that way.
Oh.
You know?
Oh. Say that again, sister. It's one of those things that I learned at Pollard backstage and watching you all guys and hearing stories. You didn't get a lot of that, you know, particularly early on. It was very much they were grateful for the audience being there, largely because you guys had to build the audience bit by bit by bit. But,
right.
But I remember Ong was particularly protective of the audience's right not to sell you on, you know, their
Right.
rah-rahness. You needed to do that work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's your job. You're the actor, not them, you know. It is, and it's substantially easier, mind you, when your audience is really
Sure.
responsive, but not too responsive. If they get too responsive, then it becomes
Right.
really difficult. But yeah, it's a lot easier when they're having a great time. You can just kind of ride the wave. But
Right.
yeah, it's like not your job.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of the kind of natural progression towards your professional work, did you continue on to go to college? Did you decide to dump that road? I don't know. I don't know that story.
No, I finished. I went to OSU for 5 weeks. Came home, hated
Gotcha.
it. I mean, it was a big high school, but I mean, I grew up going to church all the time. That's just what we did, you know. And I'm grateful for that because I probably would be married with 18 kids if I hadn't been in the busy in that.
Wow.
And now my language has always been horrible, and that comes from my dad.
Okay.
Because he owned a truck salvage, and I would hear he was a sailor and he owned a truck salvage. It's like, there you go. But I grew up around a small kind of cliquish group of people, even though the high school was big, you know. And so I think OSU was just too big for me. So I came home and I went out to Wayland Baptist College in Plainview, Texas. Wow. Yes, it's true. I'm not making this shit up. You can't make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up.
That is something.
Yeah, I know. And I spent 3 semesters out there, and I thought I was a pretty religious person. Pretty, you know. Oh boy, did I meet some religious people, and did I feel like a damn heathen.
Wow.
So I'm like, if you want to, okay, you want me to be a heathen? I'll be a heathen. So, let's drink some more. Let's do this. Let's do that. You know. But I studied theater out there. And then after about 3 semesters, I'd had enough of the religious people and the bullshit of that. But there were some really crazy people out there. I mean, multiple suicide attempts from kids, and weird shit. And I was like, I'm getting out of here. So I came back home and I went to UCO and I finished my degree at UCO.
Wow. Get it?
With Lee
You
Hicks,
took
with crazy Lee Hicks. So,
you,
oh my God.
Lee Hicks. Yes, indeed. An early.
Ellen. I worked in the office for him on work study for
Okay.
a couple of years. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It was fun. I learned a lot of things. I mean, I learned about, purchase orders and basic office skills. So it was very
Right.
helpful actually as
Okay.
time went on to know those things. And it helps to know a few real world things.
Sure. Sure. Real jobs, as much as
Starting with money.
yeah, but it's a good thing to be taught at some point.
Yeah, and I really wasn't, but I'm learning, by golly. So
Learning still.
oh God. The stock market, how does this
Yeah.
work again?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent Nick takes he was helping me a little bit, which is fantastic. But I sent him a text when this happened. I said, "Do you have any advice for a semi-frightened woman?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. It'll bounce back." And then about 30 minutes later, and he goes, "Stop looking at it." And I was like, "Okay, stop looking at
Yeah, don't, because it'll just make you crazy. It'll make you insane.
it." Yeah. It'll make you crazy, and you're like, "Oh my God."
God.
So, but anyway, I worked for Lee in the office, and I did some decent roles, but I wasn't the chosen child by
Right.
far.
Right.
I was the one that played the smaller roles. Or I remember my senior year, him saying, "Well, you're on scholarship, so I needed someone to be a stage manager, and I knew that you would do that, and I knew that Kelly wouldn't." So he cast her in the part, and me as the stage manager.
Sure.
And then I.
But I guess it's also how you started to learn multiple areas in the craft. You were learning stage management.
Right, yeah, working in an office for him,
Yeah.
yeah. It was, yeah, I learned a whole lot that I had no idea about how to do it. It stayed with me. So
Right.
it almost seems like every little job that I had along the way kind of helped me have the skills I needed when I went to work for children's theater. I don't know why,
Right.
but and I'm not a goal setter, so my life has just kind of been okay. If it happens, it happens, and I guess I'll go here now. So
Right. Right. You kind of move. You ride the wave. You kind of feel where it's going and
right the
go.
wave, baby, right the wave.
Yeah, for sure.
The only goal I've ever had is to be happy, I think. So,
Huh. Well,
isn't that funny?
yeah.
Well, here, you want the down and dirty. That comes from having depression problems, which I think so many
Right.
actors have. I think it's what draws us to that a lot of times in the
Mhm.
beginning. You can be someone else and not be
Right.
yourself. So, I think a lot of that comes from that.
You're
So,
able to hide in the work.
yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, or that person, I don't know. But maybe there's just a lot of depressed people all over the world. I don't know, but
So you're working for Lee, and you're working in his office,
Mhm.
and you're doing kind of the normal track, and I assume playing a lot of supporting characters and characters older than you are at the time, and
Always, yeah,
right.
yeah. Not now though.
So talk me through the process that is leaving the university and going out into the professional world. How do you make this transition?
Well, it was odd. When I was about to graduate, there was a box office position open at States, what was at the time the Theater Center,
Mm-hmm.
and so I applied for that, and I got hired, and that's when they closed.
Oh.
So they closed. I'm floundering around, and Lee's like, "You should go to graduate school. Let's send you down to Texas Tech to graduate school." So I loaded my happy ass up and went out there and rented an apartment on the wrong side of town, apparently. And I went out there a week before class started and worked in the office because I was going to work in the office like I'd done for him. And the night before class started, I'm lying in bed, and all of a sudden I hear some noise. And I thought, you cannot be jumping on every little noise. And the next thing I knew, this guy had his knee in my knee in my back and a knife to my throat. And he said, if you scream, bitch, I'll cut your throat. And he proceeded to rape me. Hooray.
Wow.
It's that is what it is. I won't go into the detail
Sure.
because that's something you don't want to know. But I stayed for another week and then I went home. So I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This is, like I just couldn't find a place where I felt comfortable and felt safe
Right.
to be out there for myself. So I came back and I took some more classes at UCO, and then I became a bank teller. Yay!
Okay.
And I did that for a while, and then they downsized or some nonsense, and I think they made like instead of one window, you work two windows. So I was the last person hired, and they all bank. It was Fidelity Bank, which is now Bank of Oklahoma. And when they changed to Bank of Oklahoma, that's when all these changes started.
Okay.
And there was a mortgage. They were starting a mortgage company, and so these ladies knew that I was obviously an employee that was free. And they told me later that my boss said, well, Ellen is great, but she takes responsibility on her own sometimes. It's like, and they're like, great,
Right.
that's what we want. So I went to work for the mortgage company then, and I was doing shows at Carpenter Square, and I was tired all the time because I was doing shows all night and drinking afterwards and going to work. And it, it finally they were like, you know what, this isn't working.
Hmm.
So they said, you can quit or we can fire you. I was like, well, I'll just quit. So that's when I went to work for Carpenter Square.
Okay.
And that's what I've been doing off and on. So
Right.
that'll get you to there.
Yeah. Well, let's dig in a little bit. So, because it's one of the things that we find in every artist's journey is that we can all kind of connect part of our passion for the work to experiences in our life. We can time and time again find elements of our existence, and we can go, hey, that points to this thing that I did when I was young. But it requires digging. It requires those uncomfortable moments. You're going off to graduate school. You're looking to increase your resume. You're looking to build your career.
I still didn't know what the hell I was going to do, but
Right. And this.
I mean, back then when I went to UCO, they weren't teaching like um, they weren't teaching you movement stuff. They weren't teaching you um, audition prep. They were kind of basically teaching you to be a drama teacher. That's what they
Right.
were doing. So
Right.
there wasn't a lot of skills to go out into the world and find a job other than teaching. So.
Right. This experience you have at Texas Tech,
Mm-hmm.
because it's interesting. I look at the course of your career, and I said early on, I learned that I was afraid of you, and what I meant by that is I remember watching you in a rehearsal, and you and a music director having a fierce conversation about, what you wanted a song to be and how he needed to kind of help you move that through, and he was trying to get you to do some other thing, and ultimately I remember that music director, who I'm dear friends with, said, she works her way to the moment that is the most honest. And you
Right.
find yourself trying to give her what you think is going to make it the prettiest or the flowerist or cut
Right.
all the corners off of it. And she didn't want that. She wants to find the honest version of it, which is, the thing we've talked
Right.
about, the thing I love most about your work. But it also informs me. I'm informed by this conversation because you've had this horrific thing happen to you where your power was taken, and yet for me you're such a
Mm-hmm.
powerful force. So I'm struck by the duality of that and by the juxtaposition of that, and that is such an early.
Yeah, of all people, because they say uh, personality wise, I am the last person that would you would the streak that I even when I was
Right.
before that happened. If I'm walking down the street, I'm the last person that someone's
Right.
going to come attack. I'm like, I might be different now because I'm an old lady, but but
Right.
yeah, I was in the wrong place. I rented an apartment that was on the ground level with an alley running behind it on the corner. So I was like a little last apartment next to the alley. Yeah. So
Well, and your location was, one thing, but you came into contact with a criminal. You came into contact with a bad human being who should be who.
Yeah, it was almost like the kid was the kid. I call him a kid now. He's probably my age at the time. Was on a. It was almost like almost felt like he'd been on a dare, or like he was joining a gang and he had to do that or something.
Wow.
It was very strange. They picked the guy up a few months later on the same kind of thing. And he dropped his billfold in the lady's apartment.
Oh, well,
Yeah, and they wanted me to come out. He had a makeshift mask on from here down,
mm-hmm.
but he put a pillowcase over my head, so I never really saw him.
Okay.
I mean, I described him to the police, but then they wanted me to come back to Texas and do a lineup, and I'm like, absolutely not, because I don't know what he looked
Right.
like, you know. And they sent some pictures to the Moore police
Mm-hmm.
station, and there was one guy that fit the description. The rest of them were like monsters. I was like, I'd be dead if that
Oh
happened.
my
That's
God.
terrifying. And I finally just had to tell him to fuck off, because it was like, I'm not. There'd been a time when recently, right then was when there had been a doctor that had been um, imprisoned for like 12 years on some rape charges, and he didn't do it. They found out that he didn't, and I'm like, I am not sending someone that I don't know 100% to jail.
Wow.
I'm just not doing it. So, yeah.
Wow. You know, we
My thoughts are with him. I'm so sorry.
no, no, please don't apologize. I didn't hear. I missed a little bit whatever you said just because I had a breakup. But don't apologize. This is a part of your story that I didn't know, but it's obviously a part of your story. And
Yep.
why we wanted to talk with you, why I wanted to talk with you, is because I'm such a fan of your work, and your work is informed by your story. Um,
Yep. You know,
um,
and I'm Miss Open Britches. So, what do you want to know?
um,
It took me a long time to get to where I never was traumatized really by the sex. It's like, okay, whatever, sex, you know. But it was the fact that someone got into my house,
right.
and it took me a long time to be able to sleep by myself, but I managed. So
And I always think that when I can only compare it to, being robbed or being violated in that way. But
right,
when somebody takes away your safety and security, your
right.
ability to find that, it's just I can't imagine. I can't imagine the depths of depravity and what it takes from
Yeah, I remember we
you.
got robbed when I was at the Pollard, and Russell was so upset and he was so violated, and I was like, "Why are you? We got robbed, big damn deal, you know." And I have to think that it goes back to that thing. It's like this is nothing, you know.
Right,
You're not violated. Someone took some of your shit. You'll be okay,
right.
you know. So
You didn't like, yeah.
somebody gets in your house,
It's
so
not even comparable
big space,
to what you're going through. Yeah. Um,
right?
well, how do you transition? I don't.
There you go. You didn't think
Yeah, well,
that, did
no,
you?
I mean, I didn't, but I knew I was gonna have. I knew it was gonna be a show like none we've done, and I can
The
tell you
name was
already,
Ray. You went to a Baptist college and was raped. Perfect. This is going to be a great story.
we have learned already a ton, and
Yeah,
you did not disappoint. You are no holes barred, and you
yeah.
are as real as it gets. Um,
I try to be honest, but I don't. I was thinking earlier, trying to think about stuff, and I was like, I don't think I know myself very well. I don't know the answers to half these questions. So, but
we'll
I guess we're
find them
still
together.
learning,
Yeah,
and you're always changing.
right.
It's like the few acting classes I taught at the university. I'm like, today is a different day. When I go like this, yeah, I changed the world. The atmosphere, all the energy in the world, everything affects
Right.
everything. And you can't say I'm this person because tomorrow you'll be somebody else.
Do you find that you do you find that you're always like are you kind of always evolving? Are you changing from moment to moment, from day to day? Is that
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm about to the point where I really don't care if I do any theater anymore.
huh?
I'm about ready to just hang out in the garden or move to Italy. So
Yes, yes. I've
travel.
You're a fan of Italy,
I'm
yes.
lucky. I'm getting close to 62, so it's like, okay, hey, I can do
Yeah.
this. So, yeah,
So
all the time, always different. So,
you make your way to the Pollard
mhm,
in the late '80s and into the '90s.
mhm.
How did that come to pass?
I wasn't a member at the very
Right.
beginning. It was the first season. I'm pretty sure it was the first season I came in at. No, they'd done Christmas Carol one time, and then I
Okay.
came in then. Um, I'd seen a couple of shows up there, and I was in a position that I don't remember what I was even doing. I think I was working at Tuxedo Specialists. The was a board member at
Mm-hmm.
Carpenter Square. When I got tired of Carpenter Square, I needed a real job. I went to work for him in the renting tuxedos or
Okay.
tuxedo warehouse place.
Sure.
Costumes. There you go. Was another and and I'd seen a couple of shows up there, and I thought, I'm getting tired of doing Carpenter Square and this and this. I'll go
Mm-hmm.
up here and audition. So I did, and you hired me. So
And
that's what I was going to do.
which is how I came to be introduced to your work. And I remember
Right.
specifically the first show I saw you in was the Mystery of Edwin Drood.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a couple of things about that experience, uh, but what stood out most for me is that there were people in that company and in that show that were absolutely mesmerizing. And thankfully, most of you didn't have a ton of scenes together. Um,
Right.
you and Mickey and Ong, who just resonated. There was, we went into the opium den with your character, and the
Yeah.
roll drop comes in, and it just is, and you're in this bustled gown, and it was hard to watch anything but you. Obviously, that's the point. But you were so
Do you remember what
mesmerizing
happened
and
opening
strong.
night with that roll drop?
I didn't. I saw the show from the audience, so I wasn't involved. But what happened?
Well, you saw it opening night.
No, I wasn't there. What happened?
Oh, I got too close to the roll drop, and my dress rolled up in it. And the drop. Who's pulling it? Lance. So he can't hear me. You know, the whole thing is like bowing at one point because my dress is dragging it down. I'm like, God damn it, Lance! What the? And so finally he realizes what's going on. He drops it. I take a step forward, and as it rises, all I can hear is Tim Noble and Russ laughing their asses off in the corner. And I have to turn around and do this whole damn thing. Charlie said, "Man, if I'd been videotaping this, we'd have $100,000 like that. That was
Oh my
hilarious."
gosh! Backed
Yeah.
up too far and it caught the back of your dress.
Well, I'm ready. I'm in position. And I'm like, yeah, hello.
Oh
Anyway,
my God!
so
No, that's a great story. Um, you did a ton of you guys did a ton of introducing audiences to works that they hadn't seen at Pollard. I mean,
right,
some of the stuff that you did there, and it was unique. First of all, it's this little theater company nestled in the middle of Guthrie, Oklahoma. Um,
yeah,
but you're producing Mornings at 7. You're producing, gosh, you know, so many shows that the audience hadn't been introduced yet. And introduced to yet. And one of those was, at least for that little audience in Guthrie, was A Streetcar Named Desire,
hmm,
which you showed up to do. Um, that that now strikes me particularly because of the trajectory of your story. How is that? Do you recall much about that experience, that show, that character?
uh, streetcar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The biggest thing I recall is that we were doing nonsense right before it, and Charlie slapped the um, cast list up at intermission of nonsense, and then tucked tail out of there. And he had hired Jeannie Cooper to come in and play Blanche. And man, we were not happy.
Right.
And um, I was playing Eunice and Brenda was the Mexican woman. And by the time it stayed that way, Monday morning, it was like that. And then we went to lunch and we came back and the cast list had gone down and Jeannie's name was gone and I was moved up to Blanche and Brenda was moved up to Eunice and so on and so forth,
Right.
etc.
Right.
So I kind of felt undermined to begin with, being second choice,
Right.
So, and Mike and I had, at one point, we were in notes, and he said, I don't know what Charlie said to him, but it was something about his thoughts towards Blanche, and I was like, Mike was like, I just don't understand that. I said, I do. I completely understand how Stanley feels. He said, well, I said, maybe we should just switch roles. Maybe I would be a better Stanley and you would be a better Blanche, So, yeah, I never was happy with it at all. I always felt uncomfortable. So it probably, I'm sure it read too. But,
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't recall that at all. I didn't. Now I'm watching it from the house. I think by that time I'm involved, but I remember seeing it and thinking, just like much of the work I'd seen you do up until that point, it was striking and it puts you a little bit on edge. I felt like she was, more than I've seen her in the past and probably since, there was a mixture of her being both delicate and fragile, but also there was a little bit of a danger there. You didn't know exactly what was under the hood and if it might bubble up.
That was probably one of the first crazy people I played. It's like, I love nothing more than playing a crazy person because it frees you completely, and it's like, I love that.
Right.
Maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know.
Huh.
Like, I like playing Mrs. Lovett. It's like, oh man, the world is open to you. I've seen some pictures from that. I said, I look like a fucking crazy woman, man. Like, well, you are. So it's very freeing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was a joy to sit across from you and watch you work. That was the best seat in the house. Best seat in the house. So you make this. You were working with Pollard. You've got a whole list of projects you're working on, including Blight Spirit and On Borrowed Time and Hello Dolly, of course. You were in the first Noises Off I ever saw, which still is at the top of the list of all productions of that show. I don't know that it could ever be funnier than that first time with that group of people. But you start making your way, transitioning out of Pollard and ultimately moving towards arts administration and Oklahoma Children's Theater. That seems like a bit of a leap. That seems like a bit of a change.
For someone who doesn't really like kids, it's pretty weird, isn't it? Yeah.
How do you get there?
Yeah. That's just one of those things that just kind of happened. I was after I left the Pollard, I went to work for a home builder for like 2 years, and I couldn't stand it. It made me crazy.
Okay.
And so I quit, and I talked about it, and we were poor as church mice, but we'd been poor at the Pollard, so we knew how to do it. And so I quit and started making costumes and acting. And the first place I went was Children's Theater because they paid. And it was April 1995. It was the same month in the year of the bombing. I remember it vividly. And I did a show there, and then I did a screen for them. And this chick they had as the artistic director at the time was just kind of, Terry had been it, and Terry and Lynn had issues. Lynn was really controlling with Terry. And so I think with this girl, she just completely was hands off. And the gal, I don't think she knew what she was doing.
Sure.
And I came to Atlanta a couple of times with the tour staff. It's like, we're not getting directions. We're getting stop at the 7-Eleven and ask where the school's at. And I'm like, this is really not cool,
Right.
And So after she left or was fired or whatever happened there, I don't really know. Lynn said, "Would you be interested in taking the artistic director's job?" And I was like, "What?" I mean, I was flabbergasted, and I was like, "Well, I can give it a shot. If what I have to do is produce plays, I'm sure I can handle that." So I started part-time, and then about 6 months later, I was full-time. So it worked out beautifully because I had a theater job, and Lynn is such a great boss. Oh my God. She's like, "Well, you should go home. You have a show tonight, don't you? You know, you should take a rest. Stay home. Just get some rest. You got a show tonight."
Right.
So she understood all that, and there's a real good vibe with children's theaters. Like, we know we don't pay you what you're probably worth, what you would be worth
Right.
in the corporate world, but there are lots of benefits. Do I want to take 3 weeks off and go to Italy? Sure, yeah, go ahead. If there's nothing going on, then that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was the perfect fit for me being an actor. Now, the first time I worked with the kids, I thought I was going to shoot myself. I didn't do it. I was horrible. I hated it, and I'm like, I'm not even very. I'm okay with them. I just don't really like them. So I go into theater camp. I've learned to, when at lunch, I just kind of go, "Oh, okay, move away from them, let them run around."
Right.
I did a lot of costume in the summertime. I would do costumes for the 3-week camps. They have they do a camp that would be a production camp, and they rehearse for 2.5 weeks and then perform. And I would do the costumes. And I made the mistake of coming into a rehearsal with my arms full of costumes. And these kids rushed me, and I was like, "Okay, everybody, take 5 steps back. Everybody. Okay, now." I was just like, "Get away from me." And I was like, I got to remember not to do that again. So
Kids reporting back to their parents. "Oh, sorry."
And you said you're afraid of me. We'd have kids that would take these camps for multiple years, and the first year they were horrified, just absolutely afraid to even say, "This doesn't fit, this is uncomfortable."
Right.
And the next year they'd be a little bit. By the third year, they were like, "I'm on to you, lady.
Mm-hmm.
Your bark is a lot bigger than your bite." So I know that lasts for 2 years anyway with the kids. So.
Right. Oh man. That's you.
So going into art administration was never really something I thought about doing,
Right.
but she was like, "What do you do?" It was like, basically, I produce plays for little kids
Right.
and act on the side. So
Why is that important?
what's what?
Producing plays for little kids. Why is that important?
Well, I mean, it introduces them to the arts for one thing, and we with our camps, I always like to say that it's a process over product. Where if you go someplace like Lyric, it's all about the product for the most part.
Right.
And that's good, because sometimes we'll have a kid that really wants to go to Broadway. It's like, you need to go to Lyric if you're wanting to do a career in this, because that's not what we teach. With our camps, it's like, we've talked to campers because we come full circle with a lot of them. Some of them are now their kids are in the camp, and they would say, "I would not be able to talk in a board meeting if I hadn't had these theater classes." They open them up and allow them to be confident when you're standing on stage. I still can't talk in a board meeting; it makes me crazy. But the camps in that, and it's also you have little kids that. We have a lot of underserved kids that come through, and it's like, you can do this, because our productions are quite simple, mainly right now because we have such a small space. But it helps them to see, it's like, I could do this. We have some boxes. Let's do that. It helps their creativity, and then sometimes it's just for them to have a good time.
Right.
So
You're not looking to what is the end result of the show, but how they develop as a benefit of the process.
Right, and I figured that if we touch one person, then we've done our job.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what's valuable.
So a lot of the kids will come in and they'll go, "What is this movie?" It's like, okay, number one, it's not a movie. It's a play. A lot of them never been to a play before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's it's an important part of the culture.
And I will tell you, as an actor, you want to learn if you're any good, perform for some kids, because if you are not good, they'll let you know. So
Right.
I called it the potty pole.
The body pole.
If 5 or 6 kids need to go to the bathroom during your scene, there's probably a problem with your scene. I did one children's show that I won't say who wrote it. He's passed on now. So I did everything but stand on my head during it. I was playing the skin horse in
Hmm.
Velveteen Rabbit. Those kids were so bored with me. I couldn't do, and I could
Right.
tell. You know, the script was terrible, but I apparently was too. So,
That's the review you want to read. That's your New York Times opener.
yeah, I was like playing a horse in a leather suit. It was quite an event.
We were talking a little bit about how we fix where we are and our ability to communicate.
Right.
You're working with children. You're seeing children from all backgrounds. You've had this journey that's taken you here and there and back again. What are we missing in terms of being able to talk to each other and able to deal with admitting that we don't know what we don't know and navigating this moment?
Yeah, I think that it's like we talked about earlier. It's talking about shared experiences, which goes right back to theater. It's telling the story, telling other people your story, and not like I've noticed just recently. Like I stopped at a 7-Eleven. It's like people were like uber nice to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you kind of look at each other like you really are a real person, aren't you? It's like, yeah, I'm a 60-year-old white woman, which does not mean I'm a stick in the mud or whatever. Usually if they look at me like that, some kid with, you know, piercings all over the place, and I just dropped the F-bomb and they're happy. So, but I've noticed with the kids at the university, because we also have the university students that we're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed with them they're a lot more open and understanding, and I don't know if it's where they come from or if it's just because they're kids. I really don't know what causes it, but I think that generation is a lot better off than we are. My generation, because my my dad was 50 when I was born, and his grandfather, my great grandfather, died when my dad was 30, and that particular great grandfather had fought in the Civil War. So it's not as removed as we like to think that it is.
Well,
And but we don't know each other. We don't know. I have that background, and then I have Quakers in my family, so it's like yay for the Quakers, yay. But I think it's just people understanding the story. But what are you going to do? I'm going to tell a black story. No one comes with the black people. I don't know how you interest white people in the story.
right. How you interested?
Well, it's self-awareness. It's self-awareness. It's like, stop and think, why do you feel that way? You know, Lynn and I were talking about it, and she said, I still can't help it if it's 10 o'clock at night and I pull up and there's a corner full of about 4 or 5 black guys, I feel uncomfortable. You know, and white, you know, would you feel the same way if it was 4 or 5 white guys? Probably, I don't know.
Right. Well, but I mean, being honest,
I got nothing.
being honest about that's I think that's something you say you have got nothing, but I think that's something huge. I think being able to have that discussion.
Well, people say they're not prejudiced, they're full of shit because everybody
Sure,
is. We all are to a certain degree. So
everybody.
I think the question is more not are you prejudiced, but are you trying to learn why you're prejudiced?
Can
You
you
know, are you doing any kind of self-examination, or are you just sitting in your little white neighborhood?
be in prejudice? Yeah. Can
So
you work through that? Can you figure out how to improve it? Bravo. Yeah. Bravo.
that's all you can do, and be honest about it. So
Well, I thank you for doing that. I thank you for
yeah, I wish I had all the wonderful answers and could just tell you exactly what we need to do, but I don't.
I don't know that anybody's got that, but I think it's.
Well, some people think they do. Here's what we need to do. When it comes to police and stuff, it's like you're gonna have to start paying the guys more if you want decent people. I don't understand that stuff at all. It's just what I don't understand about that and about putting a knee on a man's neck. It's like, and this is where my really fierce side comes out. It's like, that's a human being.
Right.
Over 4 people stand around watching this. I mean, how can you do that? Where's your humanity? Yeah. I remember in high school, we went to a football game at McGinnis, and one of the some kid from Moore had a knife and was carving the name of Moore in the chair, and yours truly reached down and pulled the chair away from him and told him what an asshole he was being, and blah 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 blah. Well, he damn near killed us. He followed us out, but it was just like, what's wrong with you? Why can you not see that that's wrong?
Right.
You're damaging their. When it comes to another life, it's like, I can't watch boxing. Oh my God, I can't watch that stuff. I can't watch movies that are violent because, and I think that all stems from probably being raped.
Sure.
But I just don't understand it. I don't understand the lack of concern for another human being. It just boggles my mind. But
right,
I'm missing people that probably should have a cop's knee on their neck and we'd be better off. But so one of them lives in Washington D.C. So
right.
Yeah.
I would liken it in my mind to the level of dehumanization it would take to take someone's intimacy. You have to, in your mind, not see this person as a human being. Any of us who you've got a sister, I can't see how you could do. I don't think it's possible.
I think they get into this. They're not trained enough, or they're not capable of maintaining their own emotion without getting mad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has to be an altered state of some kind that those cops get into, that they're single minded. I don't know what else it could be.
Right.
I guess there are people who don't care about other people's lives, but
it's kind of like one of those things where you think of kids who, for whatever reason, go through that phase where they find it interesting to harm animals.
mm-hmm.
Like they think, okay, this, I want to see what happens when you do this to an animal and see how it squirms or how it moves. And I think that level of dehumanization, that level of, I can't see you as a person. So I can take your intimacy. I can't see you as a person,
right.
So I can take your life.
I get even madder when you talk when it's animals. It's like, don't because they can't defend themselves at all.
Right.
So
right.
You're messing with my animals now.
I just think, even as I'm listening to this, it's going to take me some time to go back through it and just pour through all the places where I should have found other questions, because there's so much about you to learn from. But as always with these things, I like to end with the Bernard Pivot questionnaire, because I think it's so telling so quickly. So if you will indulge me, I've got a couple of quick questions for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
I think it's changed. It changes all the time. Right now it's Murdoch, because that's my dog's name. And I didn't give it to him. I'm completely innocent of that, because I thought, when he's a rescue, and I thought, this is a hideous name for a dog, Murdoch. But it's great because you can say Murdoch. Murdoch! Or the best part, Murdoch! It's like, here he comes.
He's like, did you call me?
Come here. Let's let everybody see you. Come here, buddy. Come on, Murdoch. Up there we go. This
Hello,
is Murdoch.
Right.
Yeah.
That looks.
So, yeah, he's my pal, man.
That looks like a Murdoch.
My buddy.
That looks like a Murdoch.
Yeah, he's Murdoch, and I scream at him, yell at him, and that's my favorite word right now.
That's awesome. What's your least favorite
My least
word?
favorite word?
Hmm.
Well, I don't like that word. Well, I want to choose the word well,
Okay.
because it usually has a disagreement attached to it,
Hmm. Hmm.
or I'm going to give you another thing to think about, or I don't really want to do that, or yeah, it's kind of a negative um, transition word.
Yeah. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, emotionally?
I would say the stories that you're telling, or maybe it's just a vibe of a room. I mean, something's doing something. I don't have an answer for
That's
that. I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay. What turns you off?
Like a pet peeve turns me off.
Sure.
People walking through the damn store talking on their cell phone. Talking about, oh, well, I told him, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know what? I got enough stress in my life. I do not need to carry yours through Target with me. I hate things. It's like, hang your damn phone up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why couldn't it be a quiet conversation if you're going to have it? Couldn't you keep it?
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, these women will just be like, well, I told him. I know she did that. She did not. And then he said, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, you're not the only person on the planet. Hello.
Yeah.
So that's being an actor too. You suck in that emotion. It's like, I don't need to carry this with me.
Right.
Thank you.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, well, what do you think? Fuck. Because it means everything. You can fuck this, or, what the fuck are you doing? And it's a verb, it's a noun, it's a adjective, it's everything. It's the perfect word. So
It's everything.
people are horrified sometimes when you say it.
Oh, what sound and noise do you absolutely love?
Water running, the ocean, the sound of water moving.
Yeah. What sound and
I put a
noise?
fountain in my new garden. I made a fountain over COVID-19 vacation. So
What sound and noise do you hate?
toddlers screaming. I hate that. I hate that sound. I'm better now than I used to be with it, but I wanted to kill the kid. Now I want to kill their mother because they probably need to go home and take a nap. But it's like, get that screaming kid out of here. Oh my God. Yeah, I hate that.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
If I were younger, I think I might want to try to be a lawyer, just because not to defend innocent people, but it's just, you look at it and you think, how did you miss this? This obvious. It's just the right black and white, right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know.
Yeah. And
That's all I got.
which profession would you absolutely not like to try?
Garbage man. I don't want to pick up the garbage. Um, I don't want to be a teacher. I've tried that, and I don't want to do
Hmm.
that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because everything seems kind of interesting in its own way.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in politics. I can tell you that. But yeah, I'm not very good at this.
No, you're great. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
April Fool. I would like for him to say, no, 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 no. You get back down there and haunt those people. What are you doing up here? Get back down there. You got some mischief to do, lady. Get out of here. So I don't. The idea of heaven makes me want to. It's like a real job. It's like, this would be so boring. So yeah, I have a big interest in the afterlife
Mm-hmm.
and spirits and ghosts. I wouldn't mind being a ghost hunter. That would be a very cool job.
Mm.
Very cool. I watch the Travel Channel too much, but you know.
Well, you like to travel.
Well, no, because they have a lot of ghost shows on there. I
Well,
don't know why on the Travel Channel. But it should be called the Ghost Channel, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like going to the haunted places and those kind of things?
Right. Yeah. I try to talk to them and they record. Yeah. Yeah. I know you were freaked out because I live behind a
Yeah.
cemetery. You wouldn't want to do that, but
Oh, no, no, no. There's
you don't need to like the Travel Channel because it would scare the pants off of you. So
there's a long running debate about a ghost hunter video that was done at the Pollard, and some of the kids there swear they hear it. Jerome, and I'm like, I don't want to hear that crap. I don't need to know anything. If they're calling me,
I will tell you that I have some pictures of when they pulled up some flooring in what's our theater now and put up a new stage up there,
mm-hmm.
and there are orbs everywhere in these pictures. I don't know if they're dust particles or what, but I mean they're everywhere. There's like 4 or 5 pictures.
Really?
And Lynn and I were like, several things happened when we first moved in, and Claire Jones, who ran the children's theater in that space, and then it became the dance departments and had a lot of other changes. But Lynn said it was talking about noises that she heard and stuff, and that she had this little I don't know what it was, like a mouse or something that you would squeak and it would make a noise. And we were talking about that one day, and I said, well, maybe it's Claire, and the thing started squeaking.
Really?
So yeah, we've had some. Yeah, I don't like being in there by myself at night, particularly.
That's maybe why I don't want to hear it, because I don't I spend way too much time in the theater by myself in the middle of the night, so I'm like, I don't need to know. I don't need to.
I don't need to hear this. I have to be in here at night sometimes for myself. Yeah, but they're not all bad. They're not bad. They just need, to tell them. They want to tell their story too.
Yeah. I know that you say you wouldn't want to be a teacher, but I think you've done a good deal of teaching and sharing your experience and sharing your story with us.
I don't have enough confidence to be a teacher, so I don't have people do it. Yeah.
My last question is this, and I saved this for last. Normally I do my survey last, but with this one I thought it might be important to put this last. Somewhere in the world there's a young girl who's going to find herself on your path. She's the future Elin Bhaird. She's the one who's going to be your successor and hopefully is going to build on your experience and move forward. What's your advice to her? What do you tell her? Not just about theater, but about this whole thing called life.
Be careful what parts of you give up. I've heard things called soul retrievals, where someone will psychically go get parts of your soul. I don't know much about that, or how that works, but I know that when things happen, like when someone leaves you or someone dies, or it's sometimes a very simple thing, we leave part of ourself there. Don't do that to yourself. That's your choice, leaving that laying there. Take that back because you're going to need it. I mean, hang on to that. You go into an audition, you give your heart and soul to it, and then they tell you no, and it's hard. It's hard not to really be hurt, but it's like, take that piece back. It's yours, So
yeah,
that's all I got. Have a good time.
that is.
Use the word fuck as much as you possibly can.
I think if there's anything clear in this document, that it is that you have a good time.
Yeah, I've had a really good time. So.
And thank you so much for sharing that part of yourself.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being interested enough to want to know anything about me. So.
It's awesome.
If you got any more questions, you can just call me back.
I will do just that, and hopefully when this is all, when we're back to normal, we you and I will be able to sit down and share a couple of stories in real life.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like that.
Thank you so much, my friend.
You're welcome, sweetie. Love you guys.
Love you.
I'm Elin Bhaird. I'm an artist, and I'm plugged in, and I have a dog in my lap.